There is a fruit with twice the vitamin C of oranges. It survives temperatures of -40 degrees and fruits while snow still covers the ground. For 400 years, it was the most celebrated berry in Europe. Kings competed to grow the largest specimens. Entire societies formed around its cultivation. Over 1,000 named varieties existed by 1800. Then, the United States government made it illegal to grow, not because it was dangerous to humans, not because it failed as a crop, but because it threatened an industry worth billions. They blamed a tree disease, they passed federal laws, they ripped bushes from the ground and burned them. In 15 states, growing this fruit remained a crime for nearly a century. This is the gooseberry, the fruit that built empires of flavor, survived the harshest winters on Earth, and was erased from American memory by an act of Congress. Welcome to history's hidden harvest. Before we unearth this forbidden fruit, know that every like, every share, and every subscription helps preserve the crops that industry buried. If what your ancestors survived on matters to you, hit subscribe and the bell. Now let us dig. The story begins in 1548 in England. A royal physician named William Turner publishes the first botanical description of Ribes uva crispa. He documents a thorny shrub bearing translucent berries that taste like nothing else. Sweet and tart simultaneously. Aromatic. Complex. Turner notes that the plant thrives in cold climates where other fruits fail. It fruits in early summer when nothing else is ripe. For a continent plagued by long winters and short growing seasons, this was revolutionary. Within decades, gooseberry cultivation exploded across Britain. By 1600, gooseberries appeared in every cottage garden. By 1700, competitive growing had become a national obsession. Gooseberry clubs formed across northern England. Working-class men gathered in pubs to weigh their berries on precision scales. The largest specimens won prizes. Champions achieved fame. A single berry from 1845 weighed over 37 grams. Growers guarded their techniques like state secrets. The records from these clubs survive. Over 3,000 named varieties were registered between 1700 and 1900. Red, green, yellow, white, smooth and hairy. Sweet, for eating fresh and tart for cooking. No other fruit in history produced such diversity in such a short time. The gooseberry was the most intensively bred fruit crop in the Western world, a true diversity marvel. Then it crossed the Atlantic. American colonists brought gooseberry cuttings from Europe. The plants thrived in New England's cold winters. By 1800, gooseberry pie was as American as apple pie. Farmers from Maine to Minnesota grew hedgerows of bushes. The fruit stored well, traveled well, and provided vitamin C when nothing else would grow. But American nurseries wanted larger berries. European varieties were impressive, but susceptible to mildew in humid American summers. So breeders crossed European gooseberries with Native American species. The hybrids were vigorous and disease-resistant. They seemed perfect. They carried a hidden passenger. In 1906, plant pathologists identified a fungal disease devastating white pine forests across the northeastern United States. Cronatium rubicola, white pine blister, rust. The fungus required 2 hosts to complete its life cycle. One was the white pine. The other was any plant in the Ribes genus, gooseberries or currants. The beloved berries of cottage gardens were spreading a plague that threatened the timber industry. The white pine lumber trade was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The industry employed tens of thousands of workers. Mill towns depended entirely on pine timber, and gooseberries, simple garden fruits, were killing the trees. The response was immediate and total. In 1911, the federal government banned the importation of all Ribes plants. By 1916, a federal eradication program began. The Civilian Conservation Corps pulled gooseberry bushes from forests and gardens across the nation. Between 1917 and 1940, workers destroyed millions of plants. Home gardens were inspected. Wild bushes were poisoned. Entire populations were exterminated. Individual states passed their own laws. In Massachusetts, growing gooseberries became a criminal offense. New Hampshire, Maine, North Carolina, and 11 other states followed. Possession of a gooseberry bush could result in fines and forced removal. For 80 years, an entire generation of Americans grew up never tasting the fruit their grandparents had loved. The timber industry survived. The gooseberry nearly did not. Here is what they never told you. The BAN protected white pine lumber profits. It did not protect forests. White pine blister rust spreads primarily through windborne spores that can travel over 300 miles. Removing gooseberry bushes within a few hundred feet of pine stands had minimal effect. The fungus found alternate hosts. It continued spreading, regardless of the eradication program. Modern forestry scientists consider the RIBES ban one of the most ineffective disease control measures in American agricultural history. Dr. Robert Hummer of the USDA Agricultural Research Service published findings showing that resistant white pine varieties developed in the 1950s made the ban obsolete decades ago. Yet laws remained on the books until 2003 in some states. Others still restrict cultivation today. A fruit was criminalized for nearly a century to protect an industry, not public health, not ecosystems. Lumber profits. Now examine what was lost. 100 grams of fresh gooseberries contains 46 milligrams of vitamin C. The same amount of orange contains 33 milligrams. Gooseberries deliver 40% more vitamin C than the fruit we built an entire industry around. They contain vitamin A, potassium, manganese, and dietary fiber at concentrations that exceed most cultivated fruits. But the antioxidant profile is what makes researchers reconsider everything. A 2012 study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry measured phenolic compounds in dozens of berry species. Gooseberries ranked among the highest, delivering anthocyanins, flavonols, and phenolic acids that laboratory studies connect to reduced inflammation and improved cardiovascular markers. Dr. Catherine Denholm at the Scottish Crop Research Institute analysed gooseberry genetics in 2015. Her findings revealed something remarkable. The extreme diversity created by 3 centuries of selective breeding produced chemical profiles that vary wildly between varieties. Some gooseberries contain 3 times the antioxidants of others. Some produce unique compound combinations found in no other fruit. The 1,000 varieties that existed in 1800 represented a genetic treasury that modern breeding programs cannot replicate. Most of that treasury is gone. When the BANs took effect, nurseries destroyed their stock. When gardeners died, their cultivars died with them. Of the 3,000 varieties registered in Britain, fewer than 200 survive today. Of the American hybrids developed before 1911, almost none remain. We burned a library to save a lumber mill. The gooseberry itself remains extraordinary. It fruits in partial shade where other berries fail. It tolerates poor soil, drought, and extreme cold. Established bushes survive -40 degrees without protection. They fruit prolifically for 30 years or more. A single bush produces 8 to 10 pounds annually. They require no spraying, no fertilizing, no irrigation once established. This is precisely why industrial agriculture cannot tolerate them. The fresh berry market in the United States is worth over $8 billion annually. That market depends on controlled supply chains, centralized production, and varieties bred for shipping rather than nutrition. Gooseberries. Bruise easily. They do not ship well across continents. They cannot be harvested mechanically at scale. They fruit in home gardens as abundantly as in commercial operations. You cannot create scarcity with a plant that anyone can grow. You cannot justify premium prices when bushes survive for decades without inputs. You cannot build a supply chain around a fruit that performs best in backyard cultivation, so it remains obscure. The laws relaxed, but the industry never promoted it. Nurseries stock a few varieties, supermarkets stock none. An entire generation still does not know what they are missing. Identifying gooseberry is simple. The bush grows 3 to 5 feet tall with arching thorny branches. The thorns appear at leaf nodes, usually in groups of 3. The leaves are small, lobed like a maple, and slightly fuzzy. In spring, small bell-shaped flowers hang beneath the branches. By early summer, the berries develop. They are round or oval, translucent green or yellow or red, depending on variety. The skin shows visible veins running from stem to tip. The taste is unmistakable, tart and sweet and aromatic. Plant bare root bushes in early spring or fall. Choose a location with morning sun and afternoon shade in hot climates or full sun in cool climates. Space bushes 4 feet apart. Mulch heavily. Water the first season. After that, they survive on neglect. Prune only to remove dead wood and improve air circulation. And harvest when berries are fully colored and slightly soft. We did not lose the gooseberry. We were told to destroy it. The laws that criminalized it served lumber profits, not public health. The fruit that provided vitamin C to northern communities for 4 centuries was sacrificed to protect an industry that no longer needs protection. But the bushes never stopped growing. Wild gooseberries still fruit across Canada and northern Europe. Heritage varieties survive in collectors' gardens and botanical preserves. The genetics that 3 centuries of breeding produced still exist, waiting for gardeners willing to grow what their grandparents were forbidden to touch. Climate change is making growing seasons unpredictable. Supply chains are fragile. The fruits bred for shipping are nutritionally hollow compared to what our ancestors grew. The gooseberry survives cold that kills other crops, fruits when nothing else will, and delivers nutrition that modern varieties cannot match. Every bush planted is a small act of remembrance. Every harvest recovers what the timber industry tried to erase. The fruit that was once illegal is legal again. The only crime now is forgetting it exists. If this harvest revealed something for you, subscribe to History's Hidden Harvest and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase from history. The next harvest unearthed soon.